Welcome back to Empowerment Radio. Are you getting into the vacation mindset? Are you getting a little bit into that groove? By the way, if you are going on vacation, maybe it's a good idea just to notice for yourself, what am I doing differently? How am I talking differently? How am I engaging differently? How am I feeling differently? It may be something that will surprise you. Now, I noticed that I certainly are feeling much more at ease, especially with the things that I cannot necessarily control. Well, one of the things we did was caving. So we went down into a cave, never done this before. I would love to do it again. I'm not sure about Danielle, but she liked it at the end as well. But it was something that, when you're calling in and you're a little naive, innocent tourist, you say, well, do you have a caving trip coming up? And they say, yes, tomorrow afternoon, but are you sporty? What does that mean? Well, I said, well, of course we are sporty. We, walked just, 65 kilometers in 3 days, so we are sporty. Danielle said, well, I'm not sure what you mean with sporty, so we had a little difference in opinions there, but in the end, we signed up, we went. Now, everyone else was about half our age, which, made us wonder, but that's fine. So we walked up a steep hill, and then we stood there at this, very steep wall. And he said, the guide, thank God there was a guide, he said, well, here's the entrance of the cave. Well, I looked around. I didn't see any entrance until I saw a little tiny mouse hole that really was very, very small. I don't know who was supposed to fit in there. Well, he showed who was supposed to be in there. It was him who just crawled in and disappeared. Whoop. Danielle was next, and she crawled in and she popped out like a gopher. She was just freaking out. It was so tight. Eventually she went in and she made it through, and then it was my turn. And I'm 6'4", so I'm not a little person, and I definitely got stuck at different corners, and I had to basically live for a moment for a length of 30 feet like a little worm trying to wiggle myself through. But maybe because it was of this vacation mind, I was totally up for it. I didn't freak out. I did not feel like there was anything, bad about it. It was just like, it is what it is. And what it was is then that we went in there and it was opening up nicely, but then we had to climb down a 30-foot wall with ropes, and then we had to swim through a freezing cold lake, and it was sporty. It was an adventure, and it was fun. And I lost my phone in the river, and it disappeared when we were kayaking, and all of those things I felt like, were just a part of the whole mix. My point is, even though certain things were scary, and of course it's sad when you lose your phone and the insurance doesn't pay, plus your whole, vacation picture album is gone with it as well, at the end, it didn't really upset me as much. It probably would have, in the day-to-day mind, way more tweaked me. And so there is something about the vacation mind that allows you also to have a bigger, a wider perspective. And maybe also it is because you feel more in control of your experience. You don't feel necessarily that you have to be the victim of your circumstances. You have that mindset of choice. I often think about Nelson Mandela, who was for decades in a prison in South Africa, and somehow he didn't obviously, cave in or give up. I mean, he had this whole idea about how to rebuild South Africa with much more equality and make it a country that he envisioned could be viable for everyone. I mean, that is someone who took control no matter what circumstances he was in. And I think this is something that I find the vacation mind does. And keep in mind, vacation is about vacating. It's not just about laying in a lounge chair. It's about letting go, vacating these routines and ideas and beliefs that somehow really burden us or hold us back or keep us small, and rising above them and making different choices. So choosing just to go through the cave, choosing to just find a way to get a new phone, choosing to not get upset when something doesn't work the way you want to. That is also something that I believe we are so much more able to do on vacation than in our day-to-day lives, where we just have a much more stringent and much more rigid way of thinking. Now, the other thing is also that vacation mind is basically clear about the expectations. You know, when you're in vacation mind, you're not necessarily saying, well, you know, I'm making vacation now in Alaska, so I want to water ski. Well, that's probably not necessarily what you do in Alaska. Maybe you're watching more of the bears, or chasing away the mosquitoes, or watching the beautiful scenery that only exists there. Who knows? But your expectations are clear. You're saying, I will not get upset when certain things are not there because I'm not expecting them. I have an idea. Now, do you know necessarily what would be your ideal way of living and going through your day-to-day life? You know, not talking about winning in the lottery or quitting necessarily your job, or just saying like when you're changing nothing externally. How often do you get upset about things that you feel like should be different, rather than feeling like, well, how can I still make it enjoyable? How can I still get something positive out of it? I had a client who really hated her job until I asked her, well, even if you don't like your job, what about the people? Do you think there are some people that actually could be your friends? Do you feel like that when you engage with them or talk with them about life, that there's something that you can share that is meaningful to them and something they can actually give back to you? And just that little tweak made her want to go to work, because she no longer just focused on that what she didn't like, but she focused much more on what was actually enjoyable and what is available in that moment. And that positivity also gave her then much more a greater sense of possibility and confidence, and eventually she quit her job. But she didn't quit it with a sense of anger or frustration. She quit it because she knew, I can have better than that. Now, there are people that you may have, you know, around you. I can think of, just on the top of my head, of two people that I admire for their modeling of positive attitude around work. They may not call it vacation mind, but they definitely show work can be fun. There's one guy that works in a cafeteria of a big grocery store. And it's a cafeteria for everyone. It's not just for the employees. And he is just so extremely open and positive, and always smiles and always has a joke. And I believe 80% of the people just come for him because they get a dose of his, you know, sense of humor, his lightness, his positivity. It's just what makes the meal so much better. And I'm sure it makes his job also so much more enjoyable, because he looks forward to see the people. He has a little chat with them. And the same was happening in a grocery store in Seattle, that there was an employee at the cashier, the checkout stand. Same thing. He always had a little smile and a remark on what people were buying, a little joke, and he made people feel seen, and he got a lot of love back. And I know, just by how he looked and what the energy was he displayed, he loved his job. So where is it that you can maybe improve your attitude towards your work by just having a little bit of that lightness, that joy, that fun in your mindset as you go to it? Is it about other people? Is it about maybe feeling more creative about your work? Or is it about also how you are going about the day? Maybe, you know, when you are at work, it's not just about, you know, clocking in the hours and just, you know, being in a place where you can't wait until it's over, but maybe it's about really also feeling pride about what you're doing, seeing that, oh, I'm making a difference, there is a purpose. Maybe you can think about creative ways to have a more enjoyable time at lunch, or just take a different route home than the usual route. Stop somewhere, maybe in a park bench, and just take in the evening sunset. And what I'm saying is mix it up. Make your life more interesting by mixing it up and taking more charge, taking more control. There is always a framework. We may not live in the city that we really wanted to. We may not have the profession or career that we really dreamt of. We may not live in the house or apartment that we really want, but all of that can still become much more positive and enjoyable if we are changing our mindset and if we're mixing it up, adding something, little touches of creativity, of fun, and of joy into our day-to-day lives. Now, this is again just an overall change in attitude, but what helps with the vacation mind specifically is to really say, well, rather than having to have these focuses for 365 days and for 30 or more years, which seems daunting, and then you lose a little bit interest or attraction, just say, well, I'm gonna take a month or maybe 2 weeks, and that's my focal time to learn something new. Just like on vacation, you say, I'm gonna go on vacation to explore a country, or to hike a mountain, or to enjoy relaxing by the beach, or go on a cruise. You have a certain amount of time, and with this focus, you actually have also very clear intentions on what you're going to do to benefit from that time the most. And so if you're saying, I'm going to just take 2 months to become a really great vegetarian meal cook, or I'm going to take 2 months to explore whether I enjoy more different kinds of yoga or Pilates or anything that moves my body more. That's an adventure. Or I'm going to take 2 months to make 5 new friends. Or I'm going to take 2 months to really get more closely connected with my kids or my parents. Or just take your time and have a focus. Really make this time that, besides the chores and work and so on, is available to you when you maybe watch less TV or turn off more often the tablets or the phones, and maybe also delegate more stuff that you don't have to do, or put things that you feel you have to do just a little bit more in the back burner for now. And then you have space, and that time, take that time to really explore something new. And this again, when we walked this Camino, you had every day a destination. We knew after 3 days, this is where we want to be. And that pulled you forward, and it gave you energy. And we thought we had to train for it because everyone said, you're going to be sore and it's going to hurt you. And no, I think this energy and the positivity just pulled you forward. And it was fabulous. And so just also see that time honoring as something that you want to do more as you go through that change in mindset, shifting into a more vacation mind. One thing that I found so interesting about the vacation mind is also how time is stretching, right? I mean, we had 1 week of vacation, but we felt like we were gone for 3. It was unbelievable. And often when we do these tours to Egypt, for example, these are 12 days, 14 days, people feel like they were gone for a month. Why? Because we are so present, it is so full, it feels like every moment somehow we are taking in, we are aware, and we are not just in autopilot. And that's what I mean is available to all of us, whether you are mixing it up, as I suggested, are more open, or maybe you're just also saying like, well, I actually am living in a city and I never saw any museum, I didn't do any, tourist bus tour, I didn't see any of those things that usually people come to see. Well, maybe I should be a tourist in my own town, which is something that I often hadn't done and later on regretted. I never did the underground tour in Seattle. Can you believe it? Well, I should. So what I also find, and this is more internal, The vacation state of mind lets you be much more kind to yourself. You let yourself more off the hook. You're not so hard. You're not so on that short leash. You're not feeling so that need for perfection or that need to perform. And your mindset and the way you're thinking and talking to yourself is just more filled with a sense of ease and maybe compassion. So just allow yourself also to notice, well, when I'm on vacation or when I'm going into this more open mindset, when I'm thinking more about how can I get the most out of this journey of life, wouldn't I also probably have a different rhythm? Would I go about life maybe more easily and more slowly? Would I push myself less? Would I tell myself less often, oh, you have to do more, you have to be better, you have to accomplish more? Maybe I would just be more kind and gracious, and maybe I would just be more okay with who I am, which is something I certainly have noticed from my vacation mind, but also from many people I talked about this subject, because it's a very interesting subject for me to see how we do something so well in one area of our lives and all of a sudden we forget how to do the same thing in the area of life that we spend the most time with, which is the day-to-day life. So just allow yourself to notice, am I doing things sometimes because I have to be busy, I have to be productive, I have to constantly somehow tell myself, oh, I have done this and accomplished that. Is that really who I am, or is that what I feel I need to be, or I was told I need to be in order to get love and appreciation? And then notice what you prefer on vacation. Maybe on vacation you actually do like much more to relax and you're enjoying just, staring into space and doing nothing. And give yourself permission to do this more. I'm talking a lot about curious and fun activities and mixing it up, but there is a sweetness in doing nothing. There is a sweetness in just sitting in a street cafe and watching people come by. I mean, how often do you do this when you're in different cities? Say you're in Paris or Rome or something, and isn't that one of the main activities? Just to hang out and watch and don't really have to do anything but that, just taking it in. You can do the same in nature. Love to lean on a tree, just watch the scenery, listen to a little creek run by. But being in a non-scheduled, non-doing state as a human being is also a part of the vacation mind. Taking naps. Again, I have to bring up my father. He was actually really good in taking naps because I feel it's something that refreshed him and made him ready for the afternoon when he went back to his office. And so I think there is something also that maybe we all could really just benefit from, just to close our eyes for 10 minutes, even if you're at work or even if you are just after lunch, sitting on a park bench, close your eyes, listen to some music, disconnect, go into the sweetness of nothingness. And again, see afterwards how your whole rhythm is slower, how your whole energy is lighter, how you feel overall just so much better. Now, and the last thing I would like to invite you is just to go back into the joy of daydreaming. A client of mine told me that, she, also German, is someone who has been always on task, has been always looking after, even as a little child, after her father because her mother had died early, and basically she felt she had to fix and do and make sure everything is okay all her life. And she told me that when she was in school, at times when she didn't have to fulfill a chore, she was looking out of the window and just lost in her thoughts, did a little bit of daydreaming, which really felt soothing and relaxing to her. And then she got scolded for it by a pretty strict teacher who basically said, you're not supposed to do this. Daydreaming is stupid, not really helpful. Forget about it. And so for, I think, almost 65 years, she had never allowed herself to daydream again. And I think that is something that I feel is really important to do more often, just to let your mind go into a place where either you're looking forward to something, maybe you're looking forward to a trip, or you're looking forward to a weekend or the evening, or you're dreaming something up about, a book that you're reading or a show that you're watching. You let your mind just go. Maybe you can go backwards and relive how beautiful it was to swim in the ocean, or to watch the sunrise after a fun party. And I would like you just to give yourself more permission to live in that dream state. I mean, animals do it. Whales basically don't sleep. They're in that alpha dream state where they're kind of awake, but also their brain waves are really relaxed. And the same is true for horses. So they don't need a lot of sleep. They are in that daydream that just is in itself vacating the mind, relaxing the mind, and creates a certain sense of joy and an openness that is not necessarily available to us in that normal day-to-day busy state of mind. Well, I hope you have a few ideas now about the vacation state of mind. There is, of course, much more that you can do and find out. Maybe there are things that just as you listen to the show came to your mind. But today is a vacation day, 4th of July. You can already find out, well, what am I doing differently? How am I feeling differently? And how do I talk to people or myself differently? And how can I find that more enjoyable way of being also as something I want to strive for during my everyday life? And how can that stretch time, make my life more fulfilling, make me more creative, productive, more pleasant to be around, and in the end, really enjoy this journey as a road trip with no certain destination, but certainly a lot of highlights along the way. Thank you so much for tuning in and taking your time to listen to Empowerment Radio. Again, you can see all the reruns on Dr. Friedemann Schaub, the YouTube channel, on my Facebook channel, Dr. Friedemann, and also on the website, drfriedemann.com. And if you have any questions about my work or interested in having just more information about my breakthrough sessions and how I can help you to overcome stuckness, anxiety, depression, or just an overall sense of feeling lost in your life, I'm so happy to talk with you and help you to just get your life and yourself to that next level. Until next time, take care.